when I thought of Not Our Pride, I thought of it as having two meanings. Us telling CSW, this is what you guys are doing is not reflective of our pride. This is not the pride that we want. It's not our pride. And I also thought of it as a defensive stance, like, hey, not us. Don't do this to the community. And so those two meanings is what I keep within myself. That really keeps me going, to make sure that we not only protect and preserve pride this year, but also instill and ensure that we change the culture of CSW as an organization to prevent this from happening again.
My feelings about LA Pride is that we weren't intentionally invested in as a community. Like, they didn't intentionally invest in community where they actually went out and seek community and find out who is the community. You know, we got marginalized, and they were looking at millennials, or, you know, young people, but they were looking at a specific demographic of young people with money, young people that have the ability to travel, you know, to as a colleague, you know, said, and he'll speak of it himself, was Coachella. And I was thinking the white party, you know, how, like, you have to have money to go to these events, and that's not what Pride is about. Not West Hollywood Gay Pride.
The increase in price to $35 is something that really excludes a lot of our membership here. A lot of our community really needs help, and I'd really like them to be able to take part in the festivities. You know, it's part of being in the community. I don't think that's fair.
Raising the prices creates definitely exclusion, particularly I would say people who are obviously the franchise, you know, people who are of color in this case, and more specifically transgender individuals, right? Like, we know that trans people or the majority of trans people make about $10,000 a year. And so, you know, and many trans people obviously are in survival mode. So when you're in a constant mode of survival, when you're in a constant mode of really, you know, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna pay your rent, or are you gonna go to the festival? Well, obviously I want to have a stable place to where I can lay my head on. So obviously that's, again, it's a sign of exclusion.
For LA Pride raising their ticket prices to $35 per day, I think that's pretty exclusive. Not all, even for me, working a full-time job, having to pay $35 a day to go for, if I wanted to go to all 3 days, still puts like a dent in my wallet. And especially for what I'm paying for, like, I don't expect to go to Pride like for the music. I expect to go to Pride to like be with my community, to learn about my community, and to celebrate who we are and the struggles that we've overcome to be there.
The cost of $35 is it's not affordable for a lot of folks, including myself. If we were still going to be a part of it, and if I weren't working for it, then I wouldn't be able to afford to go. I know a lot of the clients that we serve just can't afford that. Folks that, you know, that $35 could go toward a place to stay for the night or food for the night. A lot of our clients who are homeless and engaging in things like sex work, that $35 needs to go to something more important. So it just, the cost by itself just is too much for a lot of folks in our community.
Pride for me is just being able to be comfortable in my own skin and just being able to express myself freely, however I want, without any boundaries. And I think LA Pride, by setting boundaries in terms of the monetary aspect, in terms of financial aspects, they're limiting the amount of people that can access Pride.
I would like to believe, like, I've been affiliated with Pride for more than 25 years. I'm dating myself, but I've been building floats and on floats and doing people's hair and wigs and getting people dressed and prepared to go out there and show off and, you know, show up and show out and have a good time. So when they were telling us that we weren't invited, that they wanted to put us in a little room and separate us from, you know, each other, we just thought, you know, that's not cool or appropriate. And I went to the board meetings, and I went to a couple of the city hall meetings, and, you know, I just spoke out and just said, hey, you know, this is disappointing, and hopefully you'll change. And it's been, you know, a tug of war.
I think what LA Pride should be is something that's inclusive, definitely, of all people, where raising the ticket prices excludes people who don't have the means or the access financially to be able to come, and for it to be a safe space for these people to come in, which is what people seek and what we celebrate. It's a celebration of all the struggles that we have as a community overcome to be free and safe in expressing here just that weekend who we are.
LA Pride should be a place to celebrate the fact that we're alive still, especially for the trans community. The only other time we can all gather is Trans Day of Remembrance, which is when we mourn the dead. And Pride should be a place where the entire LGBT community can come together and celebrate the history of us, as well as celebrate the fact that we're alive still, the fact that we get to have a moment to be out and proud.
I wish it were free, honestly. Like, I think that we've seen good models of perfectly wonderful prides that are free, like San Francisco. And I don't see why that wouldn't be a sustainable model here.
LA Pride as a music festival is ridiculous. When I first heard about it, it sounded like a gay Coachella. Like they were trying to appeal to the kind of folks that go to Coachella, which excludes so many folks in our community, not just youth, but like the elders, who are folks who might be on a fixed income and want to have something that is about the LGBT community. There's a difference between having music at Pride and calling it a music festival. It's a very different thing. And I know that they were trying to appeal to millennials, and as a millennial, it felt like a slap in the face. Like they even took the LGBT part away from us.
From what I know, they did this to rebrand it so that it would target millennials. Now, as a millennial, I think that's a little bit offensive because I don't just care about the music. If I wanted to go see a bunch of artists sing, I would go get tickets to Coachella, or I would go get tickets to some other concert or music festival. But it's Pride. It's not supposed to be just a concert. It's Pride. We are supposed to be there to celebrate our heritage. I'd much rather see like people who have done stuff for the LGBT community, singers or otherwise that have done stuff for the LGBT community, other than big headliners to attract larger crowds of millennials so that they'll come to Pride.
And then it's also a sign of ignorance, right? Like when you are not able to understand what are the specific needs of people, and obviously there's this level of disconnection, right? Obviously you don't understand those things because those are not things that you have ever even experienced, or you have no idea of what that is. And so when you don't have those type of connections, even with the local community, then obviously you're gonna just not even consider or think about what are the needs of the people, right? And so even if it's increasing the price of a ticket, it really it's significant for many people. And so, but that's because it doesn't affect you, doesn't mean that it's not going to affect other people. And really Pride, you know what it is supposed to be Pride. And so when you create this type of divisions, it's not Pride, or it may be Pride for certain individuals but not for people in general.